form of interaction between humans and machines.
Human-robot collaboration is better than either one working on their own.
Can we adapt fast enough?
I mean, it's not just a new phase of the Industrial Revolution, it's an entirely new revolution.
Digital infrastructure.
A lot of very mature technology out there for surveillance.
Making the prospect of 100% cashless economy.
And that's just one small part of this new world where we interact with them, where we, ask machines to do some data analysis.
Whether it has to do with the consequences of being with a person as opposed to being with an algorithm.
Because with the right algorithms, we can take this silent, seemingly still video, and we can recover this sound.
And there'll be more and more of a division of labor where we ask the questions and the machines provide the answers.
And that was the best instrument that we had to gain access into their day-to-day experience.
So we have some huge disruptions in store.
It's just a question of getting sensor data from the real world into the AI.
Where there'll be literally trillions of objects all connected in this digital infrastructure.
Billions of dollars worth of investment is in the pipeline.
Everything around the worker, whether it's the equipment the worker interacts with, the different items on the factory floor, will be equipped with sensors constantly sending data to artificial intelligence machines that will be analyzing the data.
To improve Wi-Fi networks and digital literacy.
Awareness is a prerequisite of powerful, useful AIs.
Is machine learning. Consider one project, like the Earth, growing a skin and a nervous system where all the objects can communicate with each other. And
so giving AIs a nervous system, the ability to perceive their environments in order for them to carry out their jobs is critical.
Where every human being, every move they're making is being supervised by and rewarded or penalized by machines.
It starts with a small exponential trend, and as you know,
we're now going through the process of replacing human intelligence with artificial intelligence.
That for better or worse, a lot of jobs will be automated by AI in the near future.
Until we're all at the beck and call of the machinery.
And our lives will never be the same.
Where more and more of the economy looks like the inside of an Amazon logistics warehouse.
Onto the factory floor, they will find an environment which is a lot more intelligent than today.
And that's because these exponential trends are affecting a bigger and bigger share of the economy.
You have to believe that the chemical and electrical signals and connectivity in our brain is us.
Jet engines, locomotives, medical devices, communicating seamlessly with each other and with us.
The better computers get at intellectual activities, the more they can build better computers.
We're talking about a world with vastly more wealth, vastly more power.
It's the marriage of minds and machines.
Making decisions based on that.
To reach people on their personal devices in real time, in real place, as they're actually
Thinking straight in the age of information overload.
Chances are you have already encountered artificial intelligence today. Did your email filter keep spam out of your inbox? Did you Google anything? Did an ad appear online for something you were just reading about? That's AI.
Absolutely yes. I think we are at the beginning of a massive historical transition which will lead to a new economic system, a new industrial system, a new way of life.
AI revolution, but the technology is clearly already here. And soon it will drive our cars and read our x-rays and affect pretty much every job and industry.
Which will be really qualitatively different from what we are experiencing now.
And it's just a continuation of that. More sensors, more real-time data coming in that allow the systems to make relevant decisions that are helpful to us.
There will be a new and different form of interaction between humans and machines, both physical machines like robots and virtual machines like artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I feel like most of us are already human cell phone hybrids. If you took my cell phone away, I wouldn't know what I'm doing the rest of the day. I just look at my calendar and do what my calendar tells me to.
And I think the impact is going to be enormous. We are already in it, Guy, but we are at the very beginning of it.
Well, For so many people, so many parts of their lives are sort of by necessity online now. We'll often have paychecks that are direct deposited. You often apply for college or jobs online. You find information increasingly online rather than in paper form.
So, as our complex computer-based functions get better at figuring out what causes their fitness functions to be successful, they will have all of these
Major institutions, so hospitals, libraries, schools, places that will make it easier for kids to do homework after school, or let's say to do telemedicine sessions for veterans.
And there you find some interesting things taking place, because I think that's the goal those technologies try to achieve, to be able to fully simulate what is currently taking place on screens and video
So I think
sessions.
for a lot of us, technology is already so close to us and it enhances our effectiveness. So you don't need to remember what you need to do this afternoon because it's written down in your calendar.
All of the things you're describing are rational evolutionary responses to a fitness function that attempts to keep your genes alive.
This is where we start to see these unbelievable gaps in skill development, because a lot of it is not just the elders, but it's also the time and the tools to explore these things.
But the assumption that that which comes out when one is technologically disinhibited is more valuable than understanding the inhibitions that are taking place.
A human-AI direct interface. Like, for example, we may not have AI hosts on NPR, but if I could get a chip in my brain that gave me instant access to everything in American University's law library, for example, that changes everything.
Small teams can build very sophisticated technologies that nudge people to either encourage them or discourage them.
Which then led to the first machine age, and eventually the information age.
AI that can reach down to individuals and send them very targeted messages one way or another.
Is not foreign to human experience at all. Whether it is accentuated or diminished depends on what kind of culture people think they're living in. So Facebook
also partnered with a string of what are called summit schools. They are a type of public school in California, and Facebook are working with those schools to build their own version of this kind of software.
The law center says the changes are a step in the right direction.
I think they are starting to react to the severe problems related to, several parts of their business, whether it's advertising, YouTube videos, or the search mechanisms.
Google says it's also planning to team up with other online companies such as Facebook and Twitter to share and develop technology aimed at fighting online terrorism.
The U.S. narrative is that we're there to fight ISIS.
Top technology company CEOs are gathering at the White House today.
Tech companies are ambitiously moving forward at breathtaking speed.
This is part of the Office of American Innovation, led by President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner.
Skipping the use of debit cards and moving straight from cash to mobile.
That marks the launch of the American Technology Council, which had previously been announced.
Trying to show that, they are at the top of digital revolution, but there are some basic problems.
The information is everywhere, and it's in such abundance, and nobody has the resources to look at all of it.
The CEOs, which include Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Tim Cook of Apple, and Eric Schmidt of Google's parent company Alphabet, will meet for 4 hours.
And that's within the incubation period of dozens and dozens of infectious diseases.
According to a White House official who briefed reporters, a goal is to work out ways to improve the quality of digitally enabled government services, taking ideas from the private sector.
Because if we can eventually create robots to do everything and to do it better,
You can't do it all yourself.
down the line, that we could create an artificial thing with metal and ones and zeros that is more empathetic and exercises better judgment than us and is just all around smarter than we are.
No doubt about it. I mean, let's face it, there already are much smarter than us in so many things, but the direction is pretty obvious.
And so the best thing to do is to try to prevent those diseases at the source.
CRISPR allows scientists to easily cut and replace DNA sequences.
But that's just why I liked it. I liked controlling these little people, making them do grown-up things, getting jobs, making money.
A plausible horizon for these new technologies to really spread and transform the industrial system and the economy as we know it.
But it does involve a certain amount of upfront investment to enable these connections to happen.
And I
started wondering, are there things that I can do, systems that I can put into place
for the complete transformation?
So a lot of it is about first trying to connect these big institutions that small towns have and need to have a lot of people have access to.
that'll prevent bad things from happening. Or at least if bad things happen, will minimize the likelihood of it being a total catastrophe.
In theory, we could prevent some types of depression from happening even before they happen.
And this is really the point. The sad reality is we develop vaccines not based upon the risk the pathogen poses to people, but
to collect and sell data on your online activity.
All of the things that you emote are at some level evolutionary responses.
We've known since way back in the internet, early days about the online disinhibition effect, where people will act online or act in connection to technology in ways different than what they will do with a person.
So I think we've already been, delegating responsibility for remembering what we need to do this afternoon to our digital devices.
You want to be able to encounter someone not just freely expressing their anger, but also understanding what it is that you're doing to inhibit that expression.
So this is where, when I'm advising parents on how to think about raising their children, I'm really, for lesson number 1, build out as large of a network of other adults in your child's life from the time that they are 2 on up, right? They need that network because at some point they're not going to want to talk to you about something.
Yeah. And unfortunately, rational, systematic thought shuts down.
What happened as a result of that study is when the volunteers thought that they were talking to a computer, they tended to engage in this thing called impression management less. And they also displayed emotions like sadness more intensely.
And you start dealing from your gut and your instinct.
And the volunteers who talked with the computer-controlled bot said that they felt less afraid to disclose personal details about themselves than those who talked with the supposedly human-controlled programs.
If you would like to talk to our very simple AI robot, you can text ROBOT to 666. Standard text message rates may apply, and this will also sign you up for 1A's Text Club. Again, text ROBOT to 666. Standard text message rates may apply.
Now in the United Kingdom, where you don't have the same constitutional limits on the sort of laws the Parliament can pass, what we've seen is the creation of a system of regulations where basically anything goes.
They want to make the world a better place and genuinely respect people's privacy.
Skills we probably always should have learned. Yes, it's just that they become all the more...
Exactly. Don't you think the stakes get higher through this technology somehow? Or, I don't know, it's more intense?
Well, it's also, let's be honest, this was done collectively as a society in past in ways where we put all the burden on parents in the nuclear family in the present.
Yeah.
So part of what's really transitioned is not simply the technology, but it's the way we've architected our society, where we put all of the burden for education on a very few number of adults.
The feed from that camera, along with all of this other data that's being captured about individual students, isn't just held here at the school. It's being fed back to a central nerve center a few miles away.
And you have this huge network, and it's easier and easier for the next school to join, and the next school to join, and the next school to join.
Max wants to sell his system to every school in America, not just other private schools, but big public schools with thousands of students. If you can get the cost down to around 1% of a school's annual budget, it will start to be a realistic option for most of those schools. So alt school won't just be for the wealthy.
We want the average student in the average classroom to get as good of an education as a student that has a private tutor all to themselves.
Really be a successful, profitable business. I mean, it's not just a question about schools buying the old school software. They need to train teachers will have to be engaged, and schools have to basically change the whole way they run.
Well, I guess they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't serious about profit. It's a business. So this year they've already rolled out that software to some small private schools. The next year they're going out into these kind of special public schools. And the year after that, they're going to start selling it to really big mainstream public schools.
And because we have spent so much time assuming kids to be perfectly competent because they're using Instagram happily, we're not actually investing in helping them become critical and intelligible users of these tools such that they can transfer it into something that is akin to building them.
And they can do that because the lessons are on their own computers, so everyone is seeing something different. Miles opened up his laptop to give me a kind of virtual tour of how it all works.
This is the playlist. This is it's personalized for me.
Actually know pretty much where you're spending all your time.
AI. It's a company dedicated to making deep learning accessible to everyone.
It's all mapped out in pie charts, graphs, numbers. It's based on what the pupils have submitted and more information.
Right. I love that.
And Max's business model is clearly impressing some very serious investors. He's raised almost $200 million from huge names in Silicon Valley. So Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, he's invested. And Peter Thiel, the guy that set up PayPal, he's in as well.
And they need time to explore. And there's a reason why.
More information is being captured in each class because there's a camera fixed to the wall in every single classroom. Is it recording us right now?
Sure is. Yeah, like a reality show.
As a result of this raw data collection that companies have, buying data about you, keeping data about you, and then in the end, the notion of beaming. In fancier terms, it's called predictive analytics.
I don't know. I just have trust. Maybe that's. I don't know. I know that the rules are really strict with it. There's never ever been a violation of somebody using it. I just trust that it's pretty well protected.
The large tech companies actually have a strong incentive, even economic incentive, to maintain this trust.
To what Elon Musk, the founder and chief executive of Tesla Motors, said on Saturday. He spoke at the meeting of the National Governors Association, and he called AI the biggest risk we face as a civilization.
There's actually a financial incentive to make sure that we maintain people's trust.
Here is a piece of what Elon Musk said.
I have exposure to the very most cutting edge AI.
It's like telling people I know that there's a needle in this haystack.
By examining millions of possible positions, far more than a human would typically examine.
And I think people should be really concerned about it.
Chess computers, as of over a decade ago, started to make moves that humans judge to be creative.
Because the whole picture depends on what culture or narrative individuals think they're living in.
This is about replacing human creativeness.
With the rise of computers and more recently the rise of AI.
We're tracking campaign ads in the UK and we can roll this out to any other country.
The birth of a worldwide economy.
So hopefully we'll be taking this to Germany and then to Italy. We can just keep repeating this.
Near-term economic value will probably be automation, but it's definitely poking its nose into a lot of other areas as well.
More privileged youth who have their own devices are learning these kinds of basic social technology skills much faster than less privileged youth.
What's in persuasive techniques?
Persuasive techniques?
What kind of things do they, what's that lesson about?
Our teacher has made this really cool slide about
a central repository of advertising.
Tons of different persuasive techniques.
And we do a disservice to our children by assuming that you can.
Kind of about advertising, right?
Yeah, it's like advertising. It's persuasive.
So for example, in a year's time, you could look back at all the adverts you were shown this election and say, okay, you broke all of your promises.
And so there's this moment of assuming the capabilities because
AI and education will help a lot. I'd love to really give every child a customized tutor.
Again, it's what's happening in the offline world that finds reflection in the online world.
We know that much of what needs to happen has to happen educationally, it has to happen culturally.
But when a human teacher doesn't have time, I think an AI can step in and provide a lot of value add custom services as well.
After the meditation, we start a group exercise. Lots of the work that children do looks like this, group activities, but a lot of that work then transfers over onto computers. One of them, Miles, showed me how it works. Miles is 10.
We have iPads. I would take an iPad, I'd go to the student capture app.
It's brought up kind of a barcode, QR code on the screen.
Yeah, and it'll say, hi, Miles, so then I take a photo of like a work I've done on paper maybe. So like say an example for what your letter might look like. And then it would show that picture.
So this idea that every individual should be self-sufficient, should have the tools that they need, is a very Californian idea.
How do you actually get it to happen? How do you encourage people to read stuff that does go against perhaps a core belief?
Magazine, which was designed to service the commune movement. Basically, the hippies who had kind of gathered in San Francisco dispersed and created communes in different parts of the country. They needed tools and they needed advice for how to actually maintain these sort of improvised communities.
Before social media came along, right? I mean, these are new skills we have to learn kind of as a species.
Computers get better, faster than anything else ever.
You know, I think that with the rise of data, today leading internet companies do have incredibly intimate data about all of us. So even just the mobile phone towers, right? By seeing where your cell phone is.
But you can see how it happened.
But you're basically saying that the ones and zeros in a machine are very similar to the ones and zeros in your brain.
Well, clearly. I mean, it has to be true. The alternative is you believe that there's a God and there's a soul and
We have to behave ourselves, and if you think about it, there could have been really bad privacy breaches, but there weren't for the most part, because I think, fortunately, you know, the industry has learned that we need to behave ourselves.
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched.
I do think that government could play a role in thinking through what leading very large tech companies' responsibilities are, but I don't feel that bad. Maybe part of it is that when I look at my friends working at these large internet companies, you know, almost all of them I think are good people.
In fact, people have been using lasers to eavesdrop on objects from a distance for decades.
You could look to the introduction of digital computers in the 1950s.
The electronic central computer.
The personal computer in the 1980s.
January 24, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh.
When machines could first beat humans at games like chess in 1997.
In an absolutely stunning 19 mover, and as far as just simply stormed away.
I think those were all milestones of increasing import, an increasingly large effect on the economy in our lives.
But what's really new here, what's really different, is that now we have a way to picture the vibrations of an object, which gives us a new lens through which to look at the world.
I'm not walking away from this conversation optimistic. I'm troubled.
Good.
Yeah, I'm troubled.
Good, be troubled.
Yeah.
You know, being troubled is the correct response, but also excited. Be both. Because all of these people who say, don't worry, everything's fine, there will always be jobs. Just feed the robots, feed the machines, don't worry. To me, they're just the same as climate change deniers, you know. On the other hand, anybody who says the government should step in and regulate and control and stop all of this from happening, people shouldn't be doing this kind of research, they're just as bad.
One of the rules of thumb I've sometimes given people is almost anything that the typical human can do with less than a second of thought. I think we can either now or in the near future automate using AI.
Going a little further into the future, we'll start literally connecting to machines.
I just think the whole nature of identity on so many levels is so much more fluid than it was before. There's been this falling away in so many aspects of life of categories and taboos that applied in previous generations. And the fact that people have so much just hanging out there in public online converges with the changing nature of what is public and private, which technology presents. You know what I'm talking about? And one of the fabulous things that's
happen because of social media is that you understand yourself to be a part of a network.
A particular kind of function called a neural network.
But it's not identical to your best friend's network.
Individualism, of entrepreneurialism, a kind of frontier mentality and a frontier spirit. The internet was an electronic frontier.
What their children are putting up online right now that is going to come back to haunt them when they have their first real job interview, right?
Prospective hindsight, also called the pre-mortem. Now, you all know what the post-mortem is. Whenever there's a disaster, a team of experts come in and they try to figure out what went wrong, right? Well, in the pre-mortem, Danny explained, you look ahead, you try to figure out all the things that could go wrong, and then you try to figure out what you can do to prevent those things from happening or to minimize the damage. So part of the practice of the pre-mortem is to recognize that under stress, you're not going to be at your best, and you should put systems in place.
But in terms of sticking wires into your brain, I think that technology is still, I would say, at least several decades away for healthy people.
Now, on the other hand, think about replacing intellectual power. Right? There's no S-curve here. There's no drop-off. There's no point where you go, okay, we've now used all of the intellectual power that could be used.
Distant, I can hear a mighty whistle blow.
One of the funny things about AI is that there's always been something, that's in the future, right? And I think
within the next 5 to 10 years, you will already see very substantial changes. And I'm saying this because some of these changes are already taking place.
Boy, I think that every time you use your credit card, there's a good chance there's an AI on the back end trying to figure out if it's you using your credit card or if it's been stolen.
Provided that we manage this transition in the right way.
Every time depending on when you apply for a loan, there may be an AI looking at that.
It will definitely be a better future.
And Maurice is talking about how maybe someday we could all be these sort of superhumans.
To try to help indicate whether or not, it's a good idea to approve the loan. AI is already so pervasive that most of us use it dozens of times a day without even knowing it.
Well, part of me says that has to be true. The AI was built and is operating in service of some goal that I was trying to achieve. And if I'm achieving that goal, then I think by definition I'm in partnership with that AI.
This form of AI allows computers today to look at data and help make decisions.
But I still need to turn that into knowledge with my own point of view, my own ability to think synthetically and connect dots.
Yep.
And I think, that's what advanced computation is going to help us with. It's really processing that information, gleaning insight from it, making intuitive leaps and so forth.
And Maurice says that soon, a lot of our machines won't just answer questions, they'll actually start thinking for themselves.
So we are moving to a world where the machines we work with are not just intelligent, they are brilliant.
So it's language, it's memory, it's cognition, it's being able to think through complex tasks, you're making mistakes at work.
Or look at the logistics network and try to figure out
human cultural shifts happening in our time.
How can you entertain all of those multitudes?
And how those are maybe not so much being caused by technology, but certainly converging with technology. So for example,
the first thing I did was I suggested Sim Stephanie flirt with my boyfriend Sim.
Because your genes want you to have sex.
And thankfully, they started getting really into each other.
A future of blissful human-robot collaboration.
And then, right before they had their first kiss, my Sim excused herself.
And at the time, I believe he told me her name was Sim Sensei.
Clapped her hands and did a happy dance.
developing this bot.
There was a virtual therapist named Ellie.
Heavily inspired by neuroscience.
To both understand illness and maybe treat it in real time and in real place.
You share a passion for Pokemon. You are underwater basket weaving. Like, you're doing a task together.
What can we do about this? So my co-authors and I have used computers to assist people's imagination and help them imagine what it might be like to go into the future.
And so you're really connected intellectually, which can be wonderful for certain things, but it is very different than sitting there going with your friends.
And your immune system shuts down.
So I would say keep studying AI because the field is evolving rapidly and there's always more to learn.
But if you are referring to a certain subtype of stress-induced depression, is a word we use to mean many different things.
So I think that there's this moment where you think about how sociality works and the ways in which people are delighting in it and overwhelmed by it, and the different kinds of connections that can be made.
But there's most of the jams we get in modern life, the reptilian brain isn't equipped to handle.
And they actually did a really interesting 2014 study where they had 239 volunteers go through a health screening in which they interacted with a bot, and then and they called this person sort of a virtual human, and then half of them were randomly assigned to be told that virtual human was either controlled by a puppet, controlled by a person, so like a puppet, and the other half were told that it was controlled by a computer.
And can actually compute anything.
I feel grief. I mean, how are those things replicated by, in a machine by ones and zeros?
Very, very easily.
That we are already augmented because all of us probably listening have access to a smartphone, which is in turn connected to the internet, which in turn holds vast amounts of information.
AI is a very powerful technology. The AI is already so pervasive that most of us use it dozens of times a day without even knowing it.
Well, part of me says that has to be true. The AI was built and is operating in service of some goal that I was trying to achieve. And if I'm achieving that goal, then I think by definition I'm in partnership with that AI.
This form of AI allows computers today to look at data and help make decisions.
But I still need to turn that into knowledge with my own point of view, my own ability to think synthetically and connect dots.
Yep.
And I think, that's what advanced computation is going to help us with. It's really processing that information, gleaning insight from it, making intuitive leaps and so forth.
And Marie says that soon, a lot of our machines won't just answer questions, they'll actually start thinking for themselves.
AI self-driven?
That we are already augmented because all of us probably listening have access to a smartphone, which is in turn connected to the internet, which in turn holds vast amounts of information.
Because everyone is spying on everyone else.
AI is a very powerful technology.
It was probably a listening device.
Digital mental health care has a chatbot called Robot. If you're suffering from symptoms of anxiety and depression, there's now a chatbot that you can talk to the extent that it enhances human communication.
It's actually easy to see, whenever some company comes out with the latest smartphone, the next day people are like, great, what's next? I want more.
So this idea of learning input-output A to B mappings, when done appropriately, can be inserted into bigger products that all of us use every day, like spam filters, and helping a lot of people already today.
Which is our capacity to imagine and desire better things, better lives, better relationships that will keep the demands on us increasing. And if that's true, then the AIs that would displace us are actually just what we need in order to keep up.
It's just not entirely clear to consumers exactly where to go.
The system of the things we make is rudimentary at best. For instance, a car doesn't tell the city's public works department that it just hit a pothole at the corner of Broadway and Morrison.
That's another form of AI.
A building doesn't tell its designers whether or not the people inside like being there.
That's also AI.
So our ability to actually understand the outcome of a truly exponential technology cannot be based on anything that has been observed in history.
Now what's missing is a nervous system connecting us to all of the things that we design, make, and use.
There's no question that the vast majority of things that humans are doing today are going to be replaced. You know, the last human input.
And it's going to go on for the rest of time because it's built into human nature.
He had joined the AI community to immerse on the AI scene just a few years ago with a few comments like AI is summoning the demon. And unless he has access to some secret AI technology that none of the rest of us have heard of, then I would say his fears are overblown.
Each morning before the sun come shine.
You know, because it seems so ethereal. I think we should be really concerned about AI, and I think we should. AI is a rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive. Because I think by the time we're reactive in AI regulation, it's too late.
Also, we see is bots being used to attack the opposition.
Boy, you know, I wish I knew how to build a computer that was, you know, smart enough that we even had to worry about it taking over.
That's the influence point. So the first part is to infiltrate the audience.
I keep sounding the alarm bell, but you know, until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react.
Look like the audience, say what the audience is saying, and then it's to do placement.
There is this gap between what the public thinks of AI, because there's this human level AI sentient thing, and maybe we're taking baby steps toward that. But despite us being so far away from what any human can do, AI is also creating tremendous value
in manufacturing a kind of consensus.
There was once hype about nanotechnology, little robots crawling around the breastfeed. What if that goes out of control? There's potential for biology to go out of control, DNA hacking. AI products, best AI systems that really help people come from a synthesis of, you know, people that understand humans as well as people that understand technology.
To sow chaos and disinformation.
Worrying today about AI evil killer robots is a bit like worrying about overpopulation on the planet Mars. I'm not saying it couldn't happen maybe hundreds of years from now, but we haven't even landed on Mars yet, so those concerns seem a bit overblown.
As we would say in information warfare.
Because this is a field which has very little public knowledge.
Several hundred years, maybe AI will become sentient and maybe it'll be so strong to be dangerous, but we're so far away from that reality that I think there's a big distraction from the real opportunities.
And of course, if you're a conspiracy nut, which I'm not.
One rapid growth in one technology called supervised learning, which means learning input to output mappings.
You would say this is actually a coming American plan.
And what we've seen over the last several years is this ability of computers to learn input to output mappings, really just A to B mappings.
That show that if you have a network of people on social media who believe politically in things that are different than you are less likely to speak out.
Things like inputs some information about a user and an ad, that's the input, and output, do you think the user is going to click on this ad? This turns out to be very lucrative, like job displacement.
And one of the effects of that is some pretty nasty symptoms over prolonged use. For example, sickness, nausea, migraines, headaches, permanent hearing.
I think it's a much more serious issue than, you know, the specter of evil AI killer robots.
I suspect what's gone on here is this is the law of unintended consequences.
All my